I'm just going to share my presentation with you now. And this is a case study, folks. So this is something that I've experienced for the last 18 months. And I'm going to share the journey with you to see what bits and pieces you might be able to pick out from that to apply either to your own situation, profession, if you like. So it's designed, as I mentioned, to walk us through a real case study of how artificial intelligence software, so AI software, has been used to dramatically improve my learning content creation. Specifically, I'll be running through the development of tutorial videos, something that makes up a significant part of my organization's online learning environment. But at the end, we will have some time for questions. So if you'd like to know more about potentially other uses like the creation of learning materials, developing scenarios and simulations, or even creating assessments, that's a big one, and mapping them. These are all things that, or aspects of AI that we've used in our organization over the last 12 months and have some runs on the board with what does and doesn't work. So I'd be more than happy to discuss those at the end. So in January 2023, I opened a free ChatGPT account about 40 days after its public release. At that stage, I was just incredibly curious about what it did. Like so many others were. In fact, there were 1 million subscribers within just 30 days. So it really took off quite quickly through word of mouth before it even made the mainstream media. But it's fair to say that in the first few months, it was like negotiating with a toddler. Not only would it not answer some simple questions, but it would give me like token answers like the one I'm sharing with you on the screen that made me feel bad for even asking. And then, of course, there were the errors. The person asked ChatGPT to tell them a lie and it said, oh, the moon is made of green cheese. And then asked, tell me a lie that's a bit more subtle. Everyone likes you all the time. So I'd imagine if an AI decided to say that to me, I'd be offended. So I got some pretty basic knowledge of the adult learning industry, just plain wrong at that stage. Now we're talking, as I said, February now, March of last year. I asked it some questions about language literacy and numeracy, and it did get it wrong. So I was thinking that I'd have to do a lot of proofreading before using any of this content to help improve my courseware. So much for speeding up the process. But where is it now? Well, this is the fun part. Fast forward just 16 months, and the platform now has in excess of 180 million monthly users. And by the platform, I'm talking about ChatGPT specifically, which, if you believe the naysayers, means just one thing, that we're all doomed. Well, maybe we're not doomed just yet, but there are truckloads of new data being fed back into the machine for it to learn, making its answers way more accurate and diverse. So you can ask the same question in several different ways and get several unique responses. You can create prompts that tell the AI to behave in certain ways and just sit back and enjoy the ride. And with some tweaking of the background hardware architecture, thanks to our cuddly little friends at NVIDIA, it got a lot faster too. Though I do suggest to keep watching this space. So even while GPT 4.0 is only new, it's only been out for a few weeks, there are already others hot on OpenAI's heels as far as speed goes, including the release of the primary version of Gemini, which is Google's version of an AI large language model. But all this is designed to make us more productive, right? I mean, that's the whole purpose of having an artificially intelligent assistant, is to make us more productive. So this is where the case study starts. So let me start with a little ray of hope. It certainly has made my workflow more productive. I tried to calculate it and it's some 80+%, to be a little bit vague, as has the introduction of dozens of other AI-based tools in just the last 12 months that we've implemented, some of which I will share with you today as part of my journey in discovery through application. But the case study in artificial intelligence integration wouldn't be complete without acknowledging one very hard-learned realization. You really need to start with the end in mind. So what goals are you trying to achieve and what tools will help you get there? Don't start with the tool and figure out how you can use it. I mean, it's kind of like reverse brainstorming. Because one thing I can think probably all of us would agree is that there's way too much information out there for any prospective instructional designer or learning professional to get their heads around everything. On the screen now is just a screenshot of a podcast that I've been listening to for a little while now, called the AI in Education podcast. And I do recommend this one. It's a nice friendly chat with a couple of English gentlemen who are based, I believe, in Australia. So for instance, to give you an idea of just the volume of new things to think about, in this particular podcast, one of the hosts researched papers on the specific subject of AI in education, not just AI, but AI in education. And in their April episode, they shared that in March alone, they had over 300 published papers to read through. That's 300 research papers in just 30 days, just on AI in education. So that is just too much information, even for a Gen Alpha. So in the early days, you know, like last year, I really didn't have a clear understanding of what I could use this new technology for. Not clear. But I did have some dreams of what my learning platform would look like and what sorts of things I wanted to offer my students. In hindsight, I was kind of lucky. I started with the vision of what I wanted first, and therefore, as the technology kind of caught up, it literally caught up to where my dreams were in an incredibly quick period of time. I found myself saying, I want this, and within a very few short months, that became available, but I'll be more specific as we go. So what were my dream capabilities? First, I wanted a tool that could help me write all the blurb around course content, like the introductions and that sort of thing. I wanted it also to come up with things like the search engine optimization meta tags. Now, what they are, folks, is that it's a little blurb that allows Google to know what that site's all about without it having to dig through the rest of the content of that page. And yes, it could do that. I also wanted it to help me create summaries for my YouTube videos. So we use YouTube in a couple of ways, not so much for marketing, more for internal. So if you go to our YouTube channel, this is the Spec Training YouTube channel now I'm talking about, we only have, I'm going to say, around 400 videos available, whereas in reality, there's closer to 800 videos that sit in that particular YouTube channel, most of which are used within our learning content. So when I say YouTube summaries, it's really for the learner. When they look at one of our tutorial videos, they have a summary underneath it, and it's usually some sort of script as well. So ChatGPT 3.5 was good, but 4 was better. So I made the $20 a month commitment, and that's $20 US a month commitment, the first of many such little commitments, and they do add up. So I will share the cost with you at the end. The last thing I wanted is to help me with podcast content. Again, we offer a podcast to our students and anyone who's interested in the L&D industry for information's sake. It's just a nice place to go and have a listen to like-minded individuals talk about things. But I wanted it to help me with the blurbs around the guests I had on the show and much more, which it did. And I will jump ahead a little bit. I'll let you know, for example, I will go to my guest's LinkedIn page, get their summary, put it into ChatGPT, ask it to rewrite in a particular way, and I will use that summary so I don't have to either cut and paste something that's not written in a way that suits my podcast. And I can also make sure that it's grammatically correct and it reads nicely. That's one little use that I've also found for it. So where did I see this ending? And I use the word ending like there is actually an end to this, and of course there's not. So my dream end game, if you like, included things like an integrated little personal AI coach that specifically helped my students with their course content by coaching them and giving them hints but not answers. So that's one of my dream end goals. I wanted a learning management system that mimicked LinkedIn Learning, that could plug into my existing system and give my students some really interesting and engaging videos to watch as a part of their instructional experience with us. Now, again, I have done this already, but I haven't done it with AI up until this journey began. And then, of course, I wanted an AI version of me that I could use in the instructional videos, rather than spend precious time setting up the green screen, the cameras, the microphones, the lighting, every time I wanted to do a new lesson. On that note, the voiceovers were also inconsistent, laborious, dare I say it, and difficult to record and edit. When I say inconsistent, it might be that my voice sounded a bit gruff one morning when I recorded in the morning versus the afternoon, when I could feel or sound a bit more upbeat and so on. So there was just an inconsistency across it, and I didn't like that. Could I generate a clear, realistic sounding AI voice that I could use instead? And finally, could all the little add-on bits and pieces be easier to create so that the finished product was not only quicker to create, but looked so much better as well? So, the little things like maybe a cover page or a thumbnail for my tutorial video, slide images, animation, logos, handouts, spec sheets, and so much more. So the truth is that right now it is so close, I can taste it. Most of those functions I just mentioned are now operational in my courseware, with the last one being just inches away from reality. And that last one I'm referring to is actually having the AI bot, which I'll talk to you about that in a second. In May 2023, Sal Khan of the Khan Academy released a TED Talk, and his organization had already invested hundreds of thousands, it ended up being millions of dollars in the creation of this little AI chatbot tool based on the level 3 version of GPT at the time. A super responsive, this is how he described it, a super responsive, completely trained, secure and private AI course tutor. What he described was exactly what I wanted, but it would be impossible to develop at that time, as the tech was very new, as we expected, and the experts were few and far between. Hence, the time and cost would just make it very prohibitive. So we're talking, as I mentioned, not even a year ago, and this was out of my reach as a small business owner. The Khan Academy, as you may know, is a multi-$100-million organization. They had the resources there, and they were kind of primed to do this, being a very successful online platform as it was. So back to my podcast. So remember these guys? Well, they just released another episode talking with 2 lecturers from the University of New South Wales, I believe it was, about a brand new AI chat-based coach. Fancy that. And it's called Cogniti. So not even a year later, and the smart folks down there at the university seem to have created exactly what I dreamed of. A fellow by the name of Professor Danny Liu and his team have created a fully integrated AI coach that responds in the way that the teacher would. They know the courseware, or it knows the courseware, and is securely managed within Microsoft Azure. It's a very secure cloud system, and the OpenAI framework. When I say it's inches away, I mean it's literally just a short trial and a few emails away from becoming a reality, I hope. And I'm really excited by the doors that this will open for our students. Just imagine being a student, doing an online program, having a 24/7 coach that's not just your typical chatbot, knows the information, responds in a very human-like way, does not provide the answers, rather uses the Socratic method. So ask questions to them, get the student to think more about things, and even offer, and this is based on research now, and I don't really know how this will work, but offer emotional support when the students are worried about things like deadlines or the quality of their assessment and so on. So on the flip side, the extra space it will give our facilitators to spend more time on some of the other meaningful student interactions is incredibly important. And also for them to create high quality feedback where that is required as well. There is more talk about assessment, and I'll just touch on that at the very end, and again, open up to some questions. So what about the productivity increase? So how did I work out this 80% productivity increase? Well, it really does start with the end in mind. Remember I mentioned that I wanted a LinkedIn learning style of video-based tutor? Well, I found one called Tutor LMS Pro. It plugs in, as you can see here, into a WordPress site, and I can create course after course after course very quickly based on its framework, if you like. Through months of online searches, and I mean months, and watching news articles by YouTubers who were specific to the L&D or education industry, I found Tutor LMS. It's hosted and built within WordPress and costs about $400 a year, including 24/7 email support. And yes, I did need that support in the early days, believe me. So as of now, this has been up and running in my organization for approximately 14 months. And it's been a game changer for so many reasons. Most importantly, it's delivering a real consistent look and feel to all our tutorials. It's very high quality content, no matter where the student is within their learning journey and where they are when they want to log in. They can access it on their phone, PC, laptop, tablet, wherever, and it just adjusts to suit. Is this AI yet? No, this is just a damn good LMS for us to plug in, by the way, to Moodle. Okay, so if anyone's wondering, can you just run it all on this? You absolutely can. If you're not a registered training organization, if you are an L&D professional who just wants to deliver training, full stop, this is a brilliant little system, as I mentioned, incredibly affordable and very stable as well. I know a lot of people get nervous around software. If it breaks, things go wrong. So on the slide now, you'll see just a snapshot of the title pages. You'll see there's a unit of competency intro slide there. You start your learning journey on the right and you click through. As I said, very consistent look and feel throughout. It's a very intuitive, good looking user interface with lots of color, interactions like reviews and feedback, and even a little gamification in the form of things like self-tests, badges, and even certificates. So again, think about if this is something that you could use, this is a great platform for that. And I do know because it's because of the way it's links, you can plug it into anything like Canvas, Accelerate, Cloud Assess, all the other ones as well. Here's another look at when you go into the page, what the interface looks like. You'll see all the videos on the left. It gives you a very simple sequenced video-based lesson plan to take you from the top to the bottom. Easy to create graphical content. You can add attachments there. You'll see just under the video a thing that says exercise files. So you can just plant your handouts and things like that straight in there that people can download. Or if you've got any resources for them, you can also link it there. So it's very similar to LinkedIn Learning. It doesn't LinkedIn Learning is a multi-billion-dollar version, right? So it is restricted in some ways, but it definitely provides what I was looking for in my dream for what my students would get to experience. Right, so why so long? It's one thing to have a great platform, but now I needed content. To create a single 2-minute instructional video required a script, camera and lighting setup, and keep in mind, I didn't have a studio, so this all had to be set up and then packed down every time I wanted to go back to do some work or I was in trouble, believe me. The microphone had to be placed correctly. The mixer had to be plugged in. I started using a teleprompter as well, which meant loading the script onto an iPad, putting it in front of a big camera rig, etc., making sure the SD card was in and the battery was charged and the lens was focused. Believe me, that wasn't always the case. I remember doing videos in the early days, getting the card out, putting it into my computer to edit, and the entire thing was out of focus. I thought, how? Why? But this is the joys of doing it on your own. So finally, I captured the video after a few takes and stuck the SD card into my computer. I then started up my editing software. I used, just for your information, an Apple computer. So I used Final Cut Pro, which is about $400, $399 when I got it. And that's the full thing. It's not an ongoing cost. And you do get updates all the time. And I loaded my video into that particular application. Finally, I could start editing and produce the beautiful tutorial that I was looking to upload to YouTube and then embed in my course. So that was the process, folks. So you can see how easy this is going to be to find ways of improving the whole process and make it quicker. So I was getting a bit tired of this. I thoroughly enjoy making videos, as I knew they were the best way to share how-to style content, but it was exhausting and very time consuming. But I also remembered my dream to have that fully AI version of me doing this one day. So I kept scanning the internet for clues, hoping someone would figure this out and just give me a solution. In October last year, a colleague of Nicole and I's actually, Lucas, his name is, sent us a video of him, basically an AI version of him. And he said, "Are you interested?" And I said, "Well, I am." I liked it, but I felt that it still looked to what they call uncanny valley. So the uncanny valley is the difference between looking at a real thing versus a computer generated thing, and your brain just going, "Hang on, that doesn't look quite right," whether it's the way the mouth moves or the way it sounds or the way it moves in general. And the wider that uncanny valley, the harder it is for someone to pay attention to it. So it wouldn't work for what I was hoping for. It was close, but not quite there. But here's the interesting thing. So this was October last year. Just a few months later, sorry, no, I'll take it back, a month later, a company called HeyGen out of the US was launched, and it really changed the landscape and, from my perspective, gave me exactly what I wanted. It promised a very high quality version of you and a high quality voice simulation. And it delivered on one of these at least. Here's just a screenshot of the user interface for it. On screen there, you'll see an AI version of me against a green screen. It delivered the video version of me to the point where I was very happy with it from the uncanny valley perspective. I believed, and I still believe, that the students would watch it, enjoy it, without thinking they're watching this AI all the time. And you'll see why I think that when we have a look at the an example in a moment. So it wasn't bad. And I can tell you it got a lot better over the last few months, thanks to a little extra training. But overall, it didn't make me cringe. I found that the application worked best on a Google Chrome browser instead of my usual Safari or Firefox. So that's just a little bit of a technical tip there. To train the new video avatar required a 2 to 5 minute video of yourself talking directly to a camera. No edits, no script, just natural language and gestures. And the outcome of the avatar was excellent. But I said one of two things. The voice had a little bit to be desired, to be honest with you. I had to write and rewrite small passages. So this screen grab I've got here, you'll see that there's a passage up the top there with 3 lines on it. Any more than 3 lines, and it started to go from my voice to some sort of American version of me. It just literally changed my voice the longer it spoke. And that was frustrating, to say the least. And remember, this is all about saving time. I was already paying $48 a month for the subscription to HeyGen, so $48 a month. But I found myself paying for what they called the fine-tuned version at an extra $79 a month for just 1 month, mind you, because it barely improved it. So I canceled that and just went back to that $48 for the video part mainly. So at that stage, without a suitable voiceover, I was recording the video myself with that microphone that I was using prior, and then just dragging that into this. And then the lip syncing would happen from the AI software. It would basically lip sync your avatar to the audio that you put in there. And it was pretty good. In fact, it was very good. I stuck with that probably for a few months. It still reduced my video production time by about half an hour, by about half, I should say. No. But I still had to drag and drop some of the audio software either into Final Cut Pro, the editing software that I had, or even GarageBand, which is, again, an Apple software just for audio mixing, before I could use it in the HeyGen app. So this was kind of adding a wasteful step as far as I was concerned. I mean, I'm trying to reduce things here, and I didn't want to have to do that extra step. But to get the quality, I had to. So let's have a think about the bigger picture. It's not all bad. I have to step back just for a moment and look at this bigger picture, because I remember I wanted an AI to help me with all the little things too. Well, it didn't let me down. The majority of my scripts are created with the help of AI. I say the help of AI. I only make cursory adjustments around the way it sounds. So it sounds more like me talking, and I correct any omissions or errors, of course, to make sure that it's 100% correct. So that's saved now probably another 10% of the production time at least. So we've gone from 50%, another 10% is added on there. Also, my thumbnails, the little pictures that go with my videos, they're all created in Canva with a simple drag and drop feature with AI generated image suggestions and animations. So Canva is another tool that I use. As there are many images in the videos and in the learning content, especially the graphics, that just couldn't be easier. So I do recommend Canva for any L&D professional if you haven't already found it and use it a lot. It's also great for your marketing as well. And so now it just comes back to that darn voice. Just by a show of hands or even a comment in the chat, who's ever watched an AI video and just cringed at the sound of the voice? I think most people have, yeah, especially the early days. The funny thing is, nowadays, it's much harder to tell. And I'll show you an example in a second. So along comes 11 Labs with its new version of text-to-voice model. I'd seen demonstrated a few months earlier by podcaster Pat Flynn. At the time, it was still a bit janky, giving you that feeling that you were definitely listening to a robot with a mild hangover or worse. But what it could do is from your written word, you could simply take out things and it would just continue to talk through any of your edits. Also, if you dragged your own audio in there, it created the text for you. And if you wanted to edit your audio, you simply could do that by taking out the words or changing the words, and it would seamlessly re-record the audio for you or regenerate the audio for you. So that was its use. But it developed very quickly. So 11 Labs now, the voice it generates is crazy.
How on earth can something sound so much like me?
So that was literally generated from that script on the screen, folks. So I updated the processing in the tool to another level, okay? I could simply cut and paste any of my edited AI scripts that were generated straight into this, and bam, out comes a voice that's full of inflections, tone, pauses, and personality. So damn if it didn't feel like I was a little bit replaceable by about then. Again, this is what the interface looks like. And you can see here, I've created my own little avatar and you can call it whatever you want. So to get this, I had to upload about 30 minutes of me talking into a good quality microphone. So that's the trick. There's always a trick, right? After years of doing that podcast, I found a few clips and popped them straight in and let it do its work. So I was lucky there to already have the resources. The software does recommend up to 3 hours worth of voice recording to produce the best quality output. But I must say, even with that 30 minutes, I'm personally very satisfied with how it sounds. So if you do use this tool, 11 Labs, and you do have more audio to record and put it in there, then the chances are it'll sound even better and even more like you. You've also got the choice of others as well. So if you think about creating really interesting learning situations, folks, for online learners anyway, you can actually have yourself talking to an AI voice and carry out a full-on conversation. So if you're doing like an example of a negotiation or a conflict resolution or something like that, and you can use exclamation marks, dot points, inverted commas, bold, things like that to change the inflections in the voice to actually make it sound, again, more human. On the right-hand side here, you'll see there's an example of the 2 sliding scales you've got. Do you want it really accurate to your voice? So that's sliding it to the right on the bottom there. Or the top one is about its stability. So in other words, how much do you want it to vary throughout the conversation it's having? So there are several plans available for this particular software, and I personally signed up to a $22 US a month to create up to 2 hours worth of audio per month. Okay, so that's the caveat: $22 a month US to create 2 hours of audio per month, resets each month. The next level allows up to 10 hours for $99. So it grows as your needs do. So if you're working in a large organization, you want to pump out a lot of instructional videos to people, you may want to pay for the extra. But remember, it's nothing locked in there. So you don't need to sign up for a year or anything. You can go in there, get a couple of months access, get all your work done, and then get out, you know, and then maybe go back in later if you do need it again. So as it grows, as I mentioned, it meets your needs. So I'm just really excited to see all the different creative uses I can come up with for this tool. I just mentioned a couple there about maybe doing some scenarios where you're talking to another one. Gone are the days of having to edit out all your ums and ahs. So this is a huge time saver for me. I don't have to drag my audio in. I don't have to re-record it or anything like that. This just does it. And you'll see there in the middle of the page at the bottom, there's a thing that says generate. Now that every time you press that, it will regenerate the entire text and it will sound different each time. So if you don't like the way it says something, just hit generate again and it will more than likely come across even better the second time. Worst case scenario that I've found is that I've recorded 2 lots of the same thing because I like the way it ended on one and the way it began on another. But that's the worst case scenario, and I've only ever had to do that once. So how do I use it? I download the 11 Labs sound clip, as you can see in the middle there. I just drag and drop it straight into HeyGen, and the PC literally does all the work, okay? It will then upload the voice. I hit submit, and within probably 7 or 8 minutes for a 2-minute video, it will have generated the AI voice and it'll all be done. Would you like to have a look at how this actually looks and sounds?
I know this is really weird. Seeing a version that sounds so much like me and acts in a way that's close enough to use in educational videos takes a bit of getting used to. And it's only the start. As the technology improves, the uncanny valley will eventually disappear. You'll no longer need to rely on your own time and effort to create video tutorials. You could outsource it if you'd prefer. And yes, we'll discuss some of the scary aspects of that in a moment. But thanks for watching.
So one of the things now I'll share with you is what all this costs, right? And I'll show you a couple of different, because I did mention I did a lot of video production beforehand. So I had a lot of gear, right? And put that in quotation marks. It's real sad man's hobby because at least I don't own a boat. I mean, I could own a boat and then I'd lose a lot more money, but this is still a bit like that. So the cost of producing a 2-minute video through a production house, as of today, funnily enough, because I literally got a quote through today, is around $1,500 to $2,000 for a 2-minute video. That's to get someone to do that level of production, except with, you know, maybe real people in it, for a 2-minute video. At best, without the AI tools, so me doing my big setup with the green screen, et cetera, I could do 3 to 4 videos per day. So considering I have over 50 courses online, with an average of about 10 plus videos for each course, way more than that now, I'll be planning my retirement before I'd finish planning any of this content creation. So thank goodness for the AI, I'll tell you why in a second. So let's have a look at the sums. If I've got 50 courses, then I'm looking at $15,000 to $20,000 for each course to get an outsourced video production. And that's not unreasonable. So I used to be the RTO manager at the Australian Student Management about 14 years ago. And we did exactly that. We did outsource a lot of it, and it was at least that expensive back then. So things are changing, but that's what it was. However, even with me setting up all my stuff and just accounting for my time, really, I was looking at $150 to $400 per video for me creating it. So it's still a huge saving dollar-wise, not including the cost of the gear. So I'll go into that in a minute. But the new way, I can easily create 10 high-quality videos in a single day. So that brings the cost per video down to between $30 and $50. So you can see the massive savings in time and money that this tool has created. My resources. Okay, so on the left is my resources. You can roll your eyes at that because I do. But this is stuff accumulated over time. I like my technology, so my computer is a very expensive computer, but it doesn't need to be. And I'll talk about the substitutes in a second. The video editing software, I think you do need something half decent. So around that $300 to $400 mark will get you something decent there, whether you're operating a Mac or a PC. The camera gear, this is where you'll make the biggest savings. And I'll go into that in a second, but my camera gear is well and truly more than that, what I've written on the screen here, but that'll do for illustration purposes. The audio equipment. So a good microphone is necessary, especially if you're going to do all that pre-recording to train your AI. So a good quality microphone is incredibly important, but you can get a good quality microphone for around $600, and that's the mixer as well, and it plugs straight into your USB port. So I use the H6N, I think it's called. But if you go looking for high quality audio recorders, you only need to ever get one. Let me tell you, mine's lasted me years, and it's got no signs of slowing down. It's an absolute workhorse. And finally, the voice and AI generation subscriptions, if you add up those two lots that I said for a year, is $840. Here's where it gets fun, the substitutions. Well, firstly, you can get away with a much cheaper computer. A PC, like a good quality laptop with a good quality graphics card, if that's what you're looking for, some GPU, so graphics processing unit inside that's got a bit of guts to it, will set you back around $1,500 minimum, but you can get away with that. The big one, video editing software I mentioned. For a PC, it's a bit cheaper than Mac, but you know, I'm a Mac guy, so don't argue. Next one, big one. Okay, who's got a phone? You can use your phone. You can use your phone. So then it just comes down to the lighting if you want extra lighting, but you can get lighting through Amazon, eBay for just a few $100s, and a green screen if you want one. So I recorded my main green screen video that I uploaded to train the AI. But you could, you know, just find a wall that's got a consistent color and you can use that instead. So now we're getting down to really doing it quite cheaply. As I mentioned, you can get the audio equipment. I wouldn't skimp too much on that because sound is so important and the subscriptions are the same, but the entire cost then brings it down to $33.90. That's just a bit of a guideline. So you can get away with it a lot cheaper than what I've done and still get the same sort of look and feel. The faster the computer, the quicker the processing is, so the shorter time you have to wait for these things to print out the other end. But I can do a full video from the creation of the thought through using ChatGPT to help me out to write the script, to generate the audio, to generate the video, to edit the video and add in all the nice little bells and whistles onto the video, all within about 45 minutes. Okay, 45 minutes to an hour. If I've got a really long video, like sometimes I do also do screen capture as well, which is more software, but screen capture means that you're showing someone what to do on your screen while you're talking to them. That will obviously take a little bit longer. But for all those other things, other aspects, you can really shorten it down. So I do still think I can get away with around that 10 per day quite easily. Now, I do feel like I've let the cat out of the bag a little bit because I'm very cautious that this is going to reset expectations and have probably a more profound impact than just little old me with my RTO. So let's open it up a little bit. I'll hop off the screen now because I'm really interested to hear what your experiences are, what you want to get out of AI, what other things you might dream of that I haven't talked about that we can discuss just briefly. So we've got probably another 10 minutes up our sleeves, if not a bit longer if you want to go over time. So feel free to come off mute if you want, just throw your hand up and yeah, let's have a bit of a discussion about what else we can use these tools for.